The judgment chamber floated in the darkness between stars, a massive structure of crystal and metal that held the fate of entire civilizations. Ambassador Marcus Webb stood in the center of the accused circle, a platform suspended above an endless void. 7,000 alien representatives filled the tiered seats, rising in all directions. Their eyes fixed on the lone human below, Marcus kept his hands clasped behind his back. His expression calm despite the weight of a galaxy watching him. He had been in the detention sphere for 3 weeks, but his suit remained pristine, his posture unbowed. This was not a man who broke easily. High Regent Volther presided over the assembly from a throne of living crystal that pulsed with inner light. His form towered above the chamber, ancient and powerful. When he spoke, his voice filled every corner of the vast space through translation systems that converted his words into thousands of languages simultaneously. Ambassador Webb of Earth, you stand accused of murdering King Zelvoth of the Carthian Dominion. The evidence suggests you poisoned him during the trade summit on Station Meridian. How do you answer these charges? The chamber fell silent. This was the moment that would determine not just Marcus's fate, but possibly the future of Earth's place in the galactic community. Humanity had joined the galactic civilization only 70 years ago, still newcomers in a galaxy where some civilizations had existed for millions of years. Marcus looked up at Volther, then slowly scanned the assembled representatives. He could see the Carthian delegation, massive beings with armored exoskeletons and mandibles that dripped toxic venom. They glared at him with undisguised hatred. He could see the other species too, hundreds of them, all waiting to hear how a human would defend himself against the murder of a king. I did not poison King Zelvoth, Marcus said, his voice steady and clear. The king attempted to poison me. I survived the attempt. He did not survive his own weapon. The chamber erupted into chaos. Alien voices crashed together in a wave of sound, translation systems struggling to keep pace. The Carthian delegation roared their outrage, their vocalizations so loud that several nearby species covered their hearing organs in pain. Volther raised one crystal in hand, and silence fell like a hammer. You claim the king poisoned you? That is impossible. Carthian royal poison kills any biological being within seconds. No species in the known galaxy has ever survived it. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. No alien species, High Regent. But humans are not like other species. The murmuring started again, quieter this time, but more intense. What was this human suggesting? Explain yourself, Volther commanded. Marcus gestured to the viewing screens around the chamber. I request permission to present evidence. After a moment's hesitation, Volther granted it. The screens flickered to life, showing security footage from the trade summit. The images were clear and detailed. King Zelvoth, towering over the assembled delegates, moved through the crowd with practiced grace. The footage showed him approaching the refreshment area where Marcus stood speaking with a group of trade officials. The video slowed as Zelva's massive hand, moving with surprising delicacy, produced a small vial from a hidden pocket. The liquid inside shimmered with an oily rainbow sheen, with movements so subtle that most beings would have missed them. The king poured the contents into Marcus's glass. The chamber watched in horrified fascination as Marcus, still engaged in conversation, picked up the glass and drank from it. He continued speaking for several minutes, showing no signs of distress. Then calmly excused himself from the group and walked directly toward King XEL, single quotes. The footage showed Marcus stopping in front of the king. Their conversation was inaudible, but Marcus's body language remained relaxed, almost casual. He gestured to his own glass, then to the king. Zelva's posture changed, becoming defensive, then aggressive. Then the king began to convulse. His massive body shook, mandibles opening and closing spasmodically. Green blood began seeping from his joints. Marcus stepped back and spoke into his communication device, clearly calling for medical assistance. Within moments, medical personnel arrived, but it was too late. King Zelvoth collapsed, his body going still. As you can see, Marcus said quietly, I was the target, not the aggressor. the Carthian crown prince, younger but no less imposing than his father had been, rose from his seat. Lies, digital manipulation. Our king would never stoop to poison. It is you who murdered him, human. You who somehow survived our sacred toxin through treachery and dark science, and then I immediately called for help to save him? Marcus asked. Why would I do that if I wanted him dead? To cover your crime? The prince roared. You staged this entire scenario. Somehow, you developed an immunity to our poison, then you used it against our king to make it appear as suicide. We demand justice. We demand your death, and we demand Earth's expulsion from the galactic community. Volthera's crystalline form seemed to pulse with thought. Marcus could see the political calculation happening behind those alien eyes. The Carthians were an old and powerful civilization, controlling dozens of star systems. Earth was new, weak by comparison, with only a handful of colonies. The mathematics of power were clear, Ambassador Webb, Volther said slowly. While your evidence is compelling, it still does not explain how you survived a poison that has killed millions. The Carathian Dominion's claim has merit. Without proof of your immunity, we must assume you had an antidote prepared in advance, which suggests premeditation. Marcus had expected this. He nodded slowly. I understand, High Regent. However, before you pass judgment, I should inform you that Earth has sent a special representative to ensure this matter receives proper consideration. Voltheres' form brightened with what might have been irritation. The Council recognizes no special representatives beyond those registered with our diplomatic corps. Earth has no such representative on record. You will, Marcus said simply. The words had barely left his mouth when every alarm in the judgment chamber began screaming. Warning lights flashed red across the massive structure. The defensive shields that protected the chamber activated automatically, their energy fields humming to life through the enormous viewing windows that showed the starfield beyond. Every being in the chamber watched as a single ship emerged from faster-than-light travel. It was small compared to the military vessels stationed around the chamber for security. Sleek and black, it seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Then it began. Broadcasting the signal overrode every communication channel in the sector. It was simple. Just 2 words repeating in every known language in the galaxy. The translation systems rendered it simultaneously in thousands of tongues. But the meaning was always the same. Baba Yaga, Baba Yaga, Baba Yaga. Military commanders throughout the chamber immediately checked their tactical displays. What they saw made no sense. Every weapon system within range of that small black ship had automatically powered down. Not disabled. Not jammed. Simply ... deactivated, as if the weapons themselves had decided not to function. Voltheres' voice carried a tremor that 3,000 years of experience could not quite hide. What is a Baba Yaga? Marcus looked up at the High Regent, and his small smile grew slightly wider. It is a fairy tale, High Regent. A story that human parents tell their children about the monster that lives deep in the forest. The witch in the woods. The creature you do not provoke. The power you do not challenge. The force you leave alone if you value your life. And why should the Council fear a children's story? Because Marcus said softly, some fairy tales are based on truth. And Baba Yaga is what humanity calls the ones we send when diplomacy has failed. When our people have been threatened. When someone makes the mistake of thinking we are weak. The black ship requested docking permission. The automated systems, still functioning despite the weapons shutdown, relayed the request to Volthor. Every instinct the High Regent possessed screamed at him to refuse. To activate emergency protocols. To call for military reinforcement. But something in the way that ship sat in space. Something in the confidence of its broadcast. Something in the way Marcus Webb stood calmly in the accused circle, despite facing execution, made Volthor hesitate. Finally, he gave the order. Grant docking permission. The chamber fell into absolute silence as footsteps echoed through the entrance corridor. Slow, measured, unhurried. The sound of someone who had all the time in the world and knew it. Someone was coming, and for the first time in the Judgment Chamber's long history, the Council was genuinely afraid of what humanity had sent to represent them. The woman who entered the judgment chamber was human, unmistakably so. She appeared middle-aged by human standards, with silver threading through, dark hair pulled back in a simple style. She wore a gray suit that would not have looked out of place in any Earth's office building. No visible weapons, no armor. No entourage of guards or advisors. She walked across the chamber floor as if she owned it. "My name is Director Alina Volkov," she announced, her voice carrying clearly without need for amplification. "I represent the Office of Terminal Solutions, a department of Earth's government." High Regent Volthar accessed the diplomatic database immediately. The search returned nothing. No Office of Terminal Solutions existed in any official Earth government structure. "No Director Alina?" Volkov appeared in any registered diplomatic corps. "Your credentials are not recognized by this council," Voltar stated. "You have no standing here." Alina stopped in the exact center of the chamber, equidistant from all viewing galleries. She looked around slowly, meeting the eyes of delegates from 100 different species. "That is because we do not exist officially, High Regent. We are the department that Earth does not discuss in polite company. We are what happens when diplomacy fails." Delegate from the Thelian Confederacy. A being with 4 arms and crystalline skin that refracted light into rainbows, stood abruptly. "You threaten this council? You, a representative of a species barely off your homeworld?" Alina turned to face the delegate. Her eyes were ice cold. "I make no threats. I merely clarify the situation. Your assembly attempted to execute a human ambassador for defending his own life. That action requires a response from Earth. I am that response." The Carthian crown prince slammed one massive fist against his podium, cracking the metal. "Your ambassador murdered our king. The penalty under galactic law is death. Self-defense is also protected under galactic law," Alina replied calmly. "Article 7, subsection 12, clearly states that any being has the right to protect their life from immediate threat using reasonable force. Reasonable force does not include surviving impossible poison and allowing the attacker to die from his own weapon," the prince snarled. Alina smiled thinly. "About that impossibility, I believe it is time Earth shared some information we have kept private." She touched a control on her wrist, and holographic displays materialized throughout the chamber. They showed Earth's official classification in the galactic community's biological database. Most delegates had seen this before during Earth's admission process. Standard carbon-based life, bilateral symmetry, oxygen breathing. Nothing remarkable, except now, additional information appeared. Information marked with security classifications that made several delegates gasp in recognition. Those were the highest level of restricted data, usually reserved for existential threats or weapons of mass destruction. "When Earth applied for membership in the galactic community," Alina explained, "we submitted all required biological data as specified by protocol. What we did not emphasize, what we allowed you to overlook, is our planetary classification." The hologram zoomed to show Earth rotating slowly. Beautiful blue oceans, white clouds, green continents. It looked peaceful, inviting. Then the data appeared beside it. Planetary classification. Death World, Class 7. The chamber exploded into shocked murmuring. Class 7 was theoretical. Most xenobiologists believed such a classification was impossible. A Class 7 death world was so hostile to life that complex organisms should not be able to evolve there at all. Earth, Alina continued, speaking over the noise, has more ways to kill its inhabitants than any other documented world in the explored galaxy. We have bacteria that can consume flesh in hours, viruses that rewrite genetic codes, parasites that take control of nervous systems. We have animals that inject neurotoxins, crush prey with hydraulic force, or hunt in coordinated packs. We have weather systems that can level cities, tectonic activity that reshapes continents, and radiation from our own star that damages cellular structure. She paused, letting the information sink in. Human evolution was not a gentle process. It was warfare. An arms race between our bodies and everything on our planet trying to kill us. Our immune systems, our livers, our cellular repair mechanisms, our neural plasticity. All of it evolved to handle threats that would annihilate most species in this chamber. Alina produced a small vial from her jacket pocket. Inside, liquid shimmered with the same oily rainbow sheen shown in the security footage. This is Carthian royal poison. We acquired a sample and analyzed it thoroughly. To most galactic species, it is absolutely fatal, breaking down cellular walls and causing catastrophic system failure. She held the vial up to the light. To humans, it is moderately toxic, roughly equivalent to consuming excessive alcohol. Ambassador Webb experienced nausea, a headache, and some dizziness. The symptoms passed within 2 hours. The Carthian delegation sat in stunned silence. Their most sacred weapon, the toxin that had killed enemies for 10,000 years, was merely uncomfortable to humans. "This is impossible," the Crown Prince whispered. "No," Alina corrected. "It is simply the result of evolution on a world that tried very hard to kill us. And we refused to die." Volthor's crystalline form pulsed rapidly, a sign of agitation. "Even if your biological resistance is as you claim, it does not change the fact that King Zelvoth is dead. Your ambassador could have simply avoided the poisoned drink. He could have had the king arrested. Instead, he allowed the king to die." Marcus spoke for the first time since Elena's arrival. "I called for medical assistance immediately. I did everything possible to save his life. The poison acted too quickly for even Carthian physicians to counter. That is not my fault. You should have known it would kill him." The prince roared. "How?" Marcus asked simply. "I had no way of knowing Carthians were vulnerable to their own toxins. In human biology, we often have resistance to substances we produce naturally. I assumed the same would be true for the king." Lena stepped forward. "But we are not here to debate medical details. We are here because the Carthian Dominion has demanded execution for self-defense, and because this council seemed prepared to grant that request for political convenience." Volthar's voice turned cold. "You overstep, Director Volkov. The council considers all evidence fairly." "Do you?" Alina asked. "Then consider this. King Zelvoth attempted murder during a diplomatic summit. That is a violation of galactic law so severe that it should result in immediate sanctions against the Carthian Dominion. Yet no such sanctions have been discussed. Instead, you debate executing the victim." "The king is dead," Volthar said. "That is the primary fact." "Then we shall address that fact properly," Alina replied. She turned to face the Carthian delegation. Under galactic law, Article 93. When a member species believes they have been grievously wronged by another, they may invoke the right of grievance combat. Single combat between champions, with the victor's position being accepted as just by the council. Every legal expert in the chamber immediately began accessing their databases. Article 93 was ancient, rarely invoked, but still valid. The Crown Prince's mandibles spread in what might have been a smile. "You wish to fight us? You soft creatures from your soft world?" "I am a diplomat," Alina said. "I do not fight. But Earth has sent an appropriate representative." She gestured toward the entrance. A second figure entered the chamber. Male, human, appearing to be in his 30s. He wore simple black clothing with no insignia or decoration. His movements were economical, efficient. He carried no visible weapons, except a single combat knife in a sheath at his hip. "This is Agent David Reeves," Alina announced. "Baba Yaga designation. Rook 7. The agent said nothing, simply stood beside Alina with perfect stillness. The Crown Prince laughed. A sound like grinding stone. "This man. Against a Carthian warrior? Very well, humans. I accept your challenge. We will crush your champion, and then we will have our justice." Elena's smile was razor thin. "Before you commit, Prince, you should know Agent Reeves's record. 30 years of field operations, shot 47 times, stabbed 18 times, poisoned 9 times, exposed to vacuum twice. 98% mission success rate." Curious delegate from a species that resembled floating jellyfish asked, "And the other 2%? "Those missions required no witnesses." The chamber fell quiet. Volthar raised his hand for silence. The Council recognizes the right of grievance combat. The Carthian Dominion will select their champion. Combat will commence in 24 hours in this chamber. The combat arena materialized in the center of the Judgment Chamber, a circular platform 50 meters across. Energy barriers surrounded it, preventing interference and containing the combat within. The 7,000 delegates had returned, filling every seat. Billions more watched through live transmission across the galaxy. The Carthian champion entered first, and the chamber erupted in applause from his people. General Krivex was a legend even among the warrior race of Carthians. 3 meters tall, his exoskeleton had been hardened through countless battles until it could withstand plasma weapons fire. 6 limbs gave him overwhelming advantage in combat. 4 arms capable of crushing steel girders, and 2 legs powerful enough to leap across the arena in a single bound. His mandibles dripped the royal poison continuously, making even proximity to him dangerous for most species. The general had fought in 200 documented battles. He had never been defeated. The crowd roared its approval as Krivex raised all 4 arms in salute to his people. Then David Reeves entered. He had removed his shirt, revealing a torso covered in scars. Each mark told a story of violence survived. Bullet wounds, blade cuts, burns, the tapestry of a life spent in combat. He walked to his side of the arena, rolled his shoulders once to loosen them, ow, and drew his knife. 20 centimeters of folded steel, nothing more. The size difference was staggering. Krivex outweighed Reeves by at least 200 kilograms. His reach was nearly double. His natural weapons were deadly at any range. High Regent Volthor's voice resonated through T. He chambered, "The rules are simple. No weapons except those organic to your species or carried upon entry. Combat ends when one combatant yields or dies. The victor's species shall be declared righteous in this matter. Do both champions understand?" Krivex drew 2 massive blade-like bone growths from sheaths on his forearms. Natural weapons, perfectly legal. "I understand." Reeves simply nodded, then let combat begin. Krivex attacked immediately. He closed the distance in 3 enormous strides, all 4 arms swinging those bone blades in a pattern that should have overwhelmed any opponent. The blades whistled through the air with enough force to decapitate most beings. They hit nothing. Reeves had moved. Not just dodged, but flowed around the attack like water, finding a path around stone. He was already behind Krivex's left side, inside the reach of those long arms. The general spun, faster than something his size should have been able to move. His lower left arm swept out in a backhand that would have shattered ribs. Reeves ducked under it, his knife flashing once. A thin line of green blood appeared on Krivex's arm joint. The crowd gasped. First blood to the human. Krivex roared and pressed the attack. For 5 minutes, the arena became a blur of motion. The general used every advantage, his strength, his reach, his multiple limbs. He attacked from high and low simultaneously, forcing Reeves to constantly move, never giving him a moment to rest. But Reeves was always moving anyway. He never stopped. Every dodge flowed into the next movement. Every block redirected force rather than absorbing it, and his knife struck again and again. Small cuts that bled green across the white platform. Marcus Webb watched from the observation area. Standing beside Alina, he is studying Krivex. Marcus observed quietly. Alina nodded. Every movement, every tell. David fights with his mind first, his body second. He is learning the general's patterns. Will it be enough? Watch. 10 minutes into the combat, something changed. Krivex began to slow. Not dramatically, just fractions of a second in his reactions. His breathing grew labored, audible even over the crowd noise. Reeves had cut him 37 times. Each wound was small, precisely placed at joint clusters where the armored exoskeleton was thinnest. Each cut had severed specific muscle groups, reducing the general's effectiveness degree by degree. "Is hunting," a military observer noted. "The human is not trying to deliver a killing blow. He is systematically dismantling his opponent's ability to fight." Kravex realized it too. His attacks became more desperate, less controlled. He tried to grab Reeves, to use his superior strength in grappling. But the human was never where the general expected him to be. Another 5 minutes passed. Kravex's movements were now noticeably slower. Green blood covered the platform. His breathing came in gasping rasps. Reeves remained calm, his breathing steady, his movements as precise as they had been at the start. Finally, the general's left leg buckled. Reeves had cut the major muscle group there 7 times. Kravex dropped to one knee. All 4 arms braced against the platform to keep from falling completely. Reeves stood before him, his knife ready, but not striking. "Yield," Reeves said quietly. Not a command. An offer. Kravex looked up at the human who had methodically taken apart a legendary Carthian warrior. Pride warred with reality in his eyes. "What are you?" the general asked in his own language, which the translation systems converted for all to hear. Reeves lowered his knife slightly. "A soldier, like you. But my people learned long ago that the biggest warrior does not always win. The smart one does. The patient one. The one who turns strength into weakness," extended his free hand. Kravex stared at it. Then, slowly, painfully, he reached up with one massive hand and grasped the human's forearm in a warrior's grip. "A yield," Kravex announced. "The human has one." The Carthian delegation sat in absolute silence as Reeves helped their champion to his feet and supported him, till medical personnel arrived. Volthore's voice filled the chamber. "The combat is concluded. By the right of grievance, Earth is declared justified in the matter of King Zelvath's death. Ambassador Webb is no." The Carthian crown prince stood, his entire body shaking with rage. "This proves nothing. One human defeated one Carthian in a fair fight. It does not change the fact that my father is dead. It does not erase the insult to our people." Elena's voice cut across the chamber. "Your father attempted murder and paid the price. The council has ruled. Accept the judgment." "I will not." The prince's personal guards, 20 of them, began moving toward the arena. "If you want war, humans, then we shall give you." Every light in the chamber went dark. When they returned 3 seconds later, Agent Reeves was no longer in the arena. He was standing directly behind the crown prince, his knife resting gently against the royal throat. No one had seen him move. No one had seen him cross 50 meters. No one had seen him bypass 20 trained guards. "War?" Reeves said softly, his voice barely audible, but somehow carrying to every corner of the silent chamber. "You do not want war with humans, Prince. Trust me on this." Lena walked forward until she stood at the base of the Carthian delegation's platform. "High Regent, I believe we have demonstrated our point. Ambassador Webb acted in self-defense. The Carthians have attempted to pervert justice. We have proven our capabilities. Now, I would like to discuss why King Zelvath tried to murder our ambassador in the first place." Volthore's crystalline form pulsed with barely controlled agitation. "What are you suggesting, Director?" "I am suggesting that someone wanted to start a war between Earth and the Carthian Dominion. Someone orchestrated this entire situation, and I want to know who." Reeves stepped away from the prince and melted back into the crowd before the guards could even react. Alina continued, her voice cold and precise. "Because if there is a conspiracy to manipulate this council, to use it as a weapon against member species, then Agent Reeves and his colleagues are not here for the Carthians. Look directly at Volthor. Are here for whoever is pulling the strings." Elena. Volkov requested a closed session of the High Council. Volthor hesitated, clearly uncomfortable with the direction this situation was taking. But the other 6 council members voted to grant the request. The judgment chamber emptied, leaving only the 7 highest authorities in the galaxy, plus Elena, Marcus, and Agent Reeves, who stood silently in the shadows like a ghost. "You make serious accusations," Director Volthar said, his crystalline form pulsing with controlled energy. "To suggest manipulation of this council, without substantial evidence, is grounds for immediate expulsion from the galactic community." Lena activated a data storage device, and holographic displays filled the air around the council platform. Then, it is fortunate I have evidence. The displays showed financial transactions stretching back 3 years. Massive resource transfers, carefully hidden through layers of shell corporations and false accounts. The trails were deliberately obscured, designed to prevent detection. But Elena's team had unraveled them thread by thread. King Zelvoth was bankrupt, Elena explained, walking among the floating data streams. His expansion wars cost far more than the Carthian treasury could afford. He needed resources desperately, needed them immediately, or his entire government would collapse. So he made a deal with someone who had access to those resources. Counselor Thren, being of crystalline structure, similar to Volther, but representing the Archon Collective, leaned forward. With whom did he deal? The holographic trails converged, all the shell corporations and hidden accounts leading back to a single source. The Velkari Trade Consortium, Alina said, a supposedly independent economic entity that controls resource contracts across 17 sectors. She touched another control, and ownership records appeared. But the consortium is not independent. It is owned through a complex network of proxies by a single individual who sits on this council. The records resolved into a name. Every being in the chamber turned to look at High Regent Volther. Lies. Volther's voice boomed through the chamber, his form blazing with light. I have served this council for 3,000 years. I would never. You have also become extraordinarily wealthy during that service, Alina interrupted calmly. The Velkari Consortium holds monopoly contracts on 17 resource-rich worlds. Contracts that by law should have gone through competitive bidding but were instead awarded through emergency council powers. Powers that only the High Regent can invoke. Counselor Mira, representing the sentient collective of machine worlds, began accessing the records with her digital consciousness. Her analysis took microseconds. The pattern is clear, she announced. Every contract awarded to Velkari coincided with a minor crisis that required emergency action. Each crisis was resolved immediately after the contract was signed. Marcus stepped forward. 3 months ago, Earth submitted a bid to supply rare minerals for the Council fleet. Our new extraction techniques allowed us to offer prices 40% below market rate. We should have won that contract. It was rejected, Elena added. Velkari kept the contract at the higher price. At that point, Earth became a threat to a very profitable system. Counselor Thren accessed his own records. I remember that bid. The High Regent ruled it invalid due to technical issues with the documentation. Documentation that was perfect when we submitted it, Marcus said quietly. Elena moved to another say. T of displays. Once we began investigating, a pattern emerged. Over the past 50 years, every species that offered competitive alternatives to Velkari services encountered difficulties. Trade disputes. Diplomatic incidents. In 3 documented cases, wars broke out that destroyed their ability to compete. The evidence floated in the air, undeniable. King Zelvoth received funding to continue his wars, Elena continued. In exchange, he agreed to create a conflict with Earth. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Kill our ambassador. Frame it as human aggression. Have us expelled or destroyed before we could threaten the consortium's profits. But the king failed to poison Ambassador Webb, Counselor Thren observed. So he panicked, Marcus said. He tried to claim I had poisoned him instead. He probably expected the High Regent to ensure a quick execution before anyone could investigate too deeply. Volther's voice was dangerous now, filled with barely restrained power. You have financial records and speculation. You have no proof of my direct involvement in any conspiracy. Lena smiled coldly. Actually, we have a witness. Agent Reeves stepped forward from the shadows. In his hand was a small recording device. He activated it. And a holographic scene materialized above the council platform. King Zelvoth stood in a private chamber, speaking with a cloaked figure. The recording quality was perfect. The human must die during the summit, Zelvoth's voice said clearly. Make it appear natural if possible. If not, we manufacture a reason for war. Earth is too valuable as a scapegoat to waste, the cloaked figure responded, its voice distorted. The High Regent has assured me the Council will support your claim. Earth is too new to have powerful allies. They will be isolated and removed. And my payment? Will arrive as soon as Earth is no longer a commercial threat. It's a cloaked figure. Reached up and lowered its hood, Volthoresque crystalline. Face looked back at the king. The chamber fell into absolute silence. Digital forgery, Volther said. But his voice lacked conviction. Counselor Mira spoke immediately. I have analyzed the recording. It is genuine. The crystalline resonance pattern matches your unique signature. High Regent. This recording is authentic. Volther's form began pulsing rapidly, shifting through colors that indicated extreme agitation. Then, suddenly, he stopped. His voice became calm, almost amused. Very clever humans, but you have made a critical error. You assume evidence matters. The chamber's security systems activated, but they were responding to Volther's commands, not the Council's emergency protocols. The doors sealed. Weapon systems emerged from hidden panels throughout the chamber. 20 guards phased into visibility. They had been cloaked the entire session. I have controlled this council for 3,000 years, Volthar said. I have built an empire within your empire. The Valkyrie Consortium controls 70% of the galaxy's essential resources. Food, medicine, fuel, remove me. And billions starve. Billions die. You have no choice but to accept this situation. Alina did not look surprised. We considered that possibility. Then you know you have lost, Alina replied. We know you have never fought humans before. You have never understood what Baba Yaga really means. Reeves moved. One moment he stood still. The next 3 of Volther's guards were on the ground, disarmed and unconscious. His movements were too fast for most beings to track. The remaining guards opened. Fire, their weapons did not activate. Counselor Mira's voice carried satisfaction. Hi, Regent. Did you forget? I represent machine intelligence. Every electronic system in this chamber answers to me now, including your weapons. Volther roared and unleashed his personal power, massive crystalline shards that could pierce armor. They launched toward Alina. Marcus tackled her aside. The shards missed by centimeters, bedding in the wall behind where she had stood. But Reeves was already among the guards, using their bodies as shields, moving through them like wind through grass. Each guard fell within seconds. Pressure points struck with perfect precision. Volther began retreating toward his throne. Behind it, space began to shimmer, a dimensional rift tearing open. An escape route. He's running. Marcus shouted, but before anyone could react, someone stepped through the rift from the other side. Another human woman. Older than Alina, wearing the same gray suit. Hello. Volther, she said pleasantly. I am Director General Patricia Kane. I believe we need to talk about your retirement. Volther froze. Impossible. That rift connects to your personal escape vessel in dimensional space? Patricia smiled. We found it 3 days ago. We have been waiting for you to run. Through the rift, Volther could see his ship surrounded by 6 more black vessels, all broadcasting that same signal. Baba Yaga, how many of you are there? He whispered. Patricia's expression remained pleasant. Enough. Now you have a choice. Surrender and face council justice. Or we close this rift and let you explain to your co-conspirators why everything has fallen. Apart, the rift began collapsing. Volthor looked around the chamber at the humans, who had dismantled his 3,000-year conspiracy in a matter of days. At the council members who now knew his betrayal, at the guards lying unconscious on the floor. For the first time in millennia, High Regent Volther surrendered. 3 months passed before the Judgment Chamber reconvened for the final session. Regarding Earth and the conspiracy that had nearly destroyed the Galactic Council, the changes were immediately visible. Volther's throne sat empty, scheduled for demolition. A rotating council of 3 now shared the leadership position. Preventing any single being from accumulating too much power, the Valkyrie Consortium had been dissolved. Its assets distributed to the species it had exploited. 17 corrupt officials faced trial across the galaxy. The Carthian Crown Prince had been removed from succession after evidence emerged of his knowledge of his father's conspiracy and Earth now held a permanent seat on the Council Ambassador. Marcus Webb sat among the galactic representatives, no longer an outsider, but an equal. The chamber was filled to capacity, with billions watching the transmission across hundreds of worlds. This was not about politics or trials. This was about truth. Director Alina Volkov stood at the speaker's platform. Addressing the galaxy? When Earth joined the galactic community 70 years ago, she began, "We were told we were primitive, young, inexperienced in the ways of interstellar civilization. In many ways, that assessment was accurate. You had been traveling between stars for millennia while we were still learning to leave our solar system. But there was something we did not tell you. Something humanity decided to keep private until we understood our place in this community and whether we could trust it." The display behind her shifted, showing Earth rotating in space. But this was not the sanitized version most species knew. This showed Earth in its true nature, a world of violent extremes. Volcanic eruptions reshaping continents, hurricanes that could destroy cities, earthquakes splitting the ground, predators hunting prey across every ecosystem. Earth is classified as a Class 7 death world, Alina continued. Most xenobiologists consider this classification theoretical impossible. They believed no world could be hostile enough to earn this rating while still supporting complex life. They were wrong. We did not colonize Earth. We evolved there. Every challenge our planet created, we adapted to survive. Every threat, we learned to overcome. Every danger, we incorporated into our biology until we became the apex predator of a world designed to kill us. The display shifted to human history, not the peaceful version shared during Earth's application to the galactic community, but the real history. Wars spanning continents and lasting generations. Weapons of terrible power, some capable of sterilizing the entire planet. Conflicts that killed millions and should have ended the species entirely. "We told you we were peaceful," Alina said, "and we are now. But peace was a choice we made after learning the true cost of war. We have fought conflicts that devastated our world. We have developed weapons that could have ended all life on Earth. We have stood at the edge of self-destruction more times than we care to count. And every time we chose to step back. We chose to be better than our worst instincts." The audience sat in profound silence. This was not the humanity they thought they knew. "The Office of Terminal Solutions exists because we remember what we are capable of," Alina explained. Baba Yaga is not just a person or an organization. It is a reminder to ourselves and now to the galaxy. A reminder that humanity, when pushed far enough, when our people are threatened, when diplomacy has been exhausted, we remember how to be the creature that survived a death world. General Kravex, now serving as the Carthian ambassador, after his honorable conduct in combat, stood to speak. "You hid your true nature from us. Why?" Marcus answered from his council seat. "Because we wanted to be accepted as equals, not feared as monsters. We wanted to prove that a species forged in violence could choose peace. But when High Regent Volther tried to manipulate us into war, when he thought we were easy prey because we were new, we had to reveal Hat Earth really means in the galactic community." Director General Patricia Kane joined Elena at the platform. "The Council has asked us to expand the Office of Terminal Solutions, to train representatives from other species in our methods of conflict, resolution, strategic thinking, and defense. To share what we learned about survival on a death world, we have agreed with conditions. These methods are for defense, for justice, for protecting the innocent. The moment they are used for conquest or oppression, the moment they become tools of the corruption we just exposed. We end the program immediately," Alina added. "Baba Yaga is a fairy tale we tell children to teach them that power exists in the world. That danger is real, and that wisdom means knowing when to avoid it. We are offering to teach the galaxy the same lesson. That strength without wisdom leads to tyranny. That wisdom without strength leads to vulnerability. We offer balance." Counselor Mira projected a formal proposal throughout the chamber. "Earth has demonstrated capabilities we did not know existed in biological species. They have also shown restraint, strategic thinking, and dedication to justice. The Council proposes the creation of the Galactic Defense Cooperative. Species who join will gain access to Earth's training programs, security consultation, and in extreme circumstances, the deployment of Baba Yaga units to protect against existential threats. Participation is entirely voluntary. A delegate from a small species in the Outer Rim stood nervously. What if we do not trust giving humans this level of influence? What if we fear what you might become? Marcus smiled gently. Then nothing changes for you. We are not demanding authority. We are offering partnership. But understand this, we already have the capabilities we have demonstrated. We already have Baba Yaga. What we are asking for is the chance to use that power to help protect what we have all built together. A young delegate, barely past her species training period, asked the question that everyone was thinking. How many Baba Yaga agents does Earth actually have? The chamber fell completely silent. Alina, Patricia, and Marcus exchanged glances. Finally, Alina spoke. That information is classified for operational security. But I can tell you this much. Agent Reeves, who you saw defeat General Krevex, is ranked 7th in his operational category. There are 6 agents better than him. And there are 12 different operational categories. Mathematics hit the audience immediately. At minimum, 78 active agents, each one potentially more capable than the man who had systematically dismantled a legendary warrior. But that is only active field agents, Patricia added calmly. We also maintain support staff, intelligence analysts, training personnel, and retired agents who can be recalled if the situation demands it. She paused deliberately. And that is just one department of Earth's security apparatus. We have others. The silence in the judgment chamber was absolute. 6 months later, Marcus sat in his office on the orbital station above Earth, through the viewing port. The planet rotated slowly, beautiful and deadly in equal measure. Alina entered without announcement. They had worked together long enough that formalities seemed pointless. The Council approved full funding for the Defense Cooperative, she reported. 47 species have enrolled in training programs. 12 have requested permanent Baba Yaga advisors. The program is exceeding all projections. Marcus nodded slowly. Any resistance? Minimal. Most species prefer having us as allies rather than potential enemies. Fear is a powerful motivator. Through the window, one of the small black ships launched from the station, heading out to a distant world where a Baba Yaga unit would train local forces, share knowledge, and ensure that the corruption they had exposed could never take root again. Do you think we made the right choice? Marcus asked, revealing what we really are? Showing them the monster from the death world? Alina considered the question carefully. We gave them a choice. They could see us as victims who survived through luck, or as partners who choose peace, but remember how to fight. I believe honesty was the only path forward. Besides, she added with a slight smile, the galaxy is dangerous. Better that they know the monster in their woods is protecting them, not hunting them. Marcus raised his glass in a quiet toast. To Baba Yaga, may she only need to exist as a story. Alina touched her glass to his, and may those who forget the story learn it before it is too late. Far below on Earth, in facilities hidden across the planet, humans and aliens train together. They learn the lessons of the death world, preparing to defend the galaxy against threats both external and internal, and in the shadows. In the secret places where fairy tales became reality, Baba Yaga watched and waited because some stories were too important to forget. And sometimes, the monster in the woods was exactly what the world needed. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. Sonnet 4.5